Alright, another morning show. Jockey for position, everyone. Check us out at bigbrainuniversity.com if you have the merits. What's on my mind this morning was actually from a chat room in a Twitch streamer. Sometimes that's the only thing that is on my plate in the morning because I'm caught up with everything else and there's nothing else to, have on in the background. So I'm listening and I hear the gal make a mention about flat earthers, and I don't think that the earth is flat, but this globe thing is total fucking trash. Before we get into that, the way, what this is about is really right thought, right action. The minute you guys get presented with a subject that, flat earth, where it contradicts your belief, and you start to hate on them, and you start to judge, you start to think this or that about that person, or those people, or their beliefs, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself, because karmically you're setting yourself up for a big time fucking failure. You do need to be at least intelligent enough. My guess is to ascend to the next level when you pass on this physical life. You need to have accomplished some level of intelligence. Look, I figured the stuff out that I was given the tools and the information to figure this stuff out. But when you go into it flat earth, those people just they got such brain disorder or something to actually think that. That's the first assumption that everyone goes to. And it's so fucking wrong. When you want to talk about right thought, right action, I've fucking showed you people, I experience synchronicity from right thought, right action. That means being honest. That means labeling things as they are, not as you see them. Free of attachments, no beliefs. Those are all basics of right thought, right action. When you are presented with information, you need to manage it. When you are presented with emotions, you need to manage them. Are those correct to be thinking and feeling, and what you're doing? Is it correct? Well, what says it's correct or not? Well, you fucking tell me. If that's your fucking question to me. You don't already know? You don't already know what's good and bad? How do you not know? I think it's pretty fucking simple. If you need some examples, go read some Native American spiritualism, Buddhism, whatever the fuck you need to read. I probably wouldn't recommend Christianity because you might get a little fucking twisted up in that shit. Honestly, I don't recommend it to people. I understand it's decent, it can help some people out, but ultimately it's a net negative. Okay? Especially in a collective manner. We're not going to get into that. This is about the right thought, right action piece. Another example, I've demonstrated this, how the synchronicity pops off. Go listen to the morning shows. I'm running into the spirit animal synchronicity while I'm driving on the fucking road, yo! I mean, get real. If anybody out there, that's the thing, the people that try to say, oh, flat earthers, they're this or that, or they don't think they have any evidence for anything. Maybe they don't have evidence that the earth is flat, but at least you can fucking see why they assume it. Especially when you get into, the distance test over water and shit, where it's the water's pretty much always, you gotta measure the middle to make sure there's no concavity there. That's something they're not doing, conveniently, which is that the flat earth psyop is a whole nother fucking conversation that we're not gonna get into. This is about that surface fucking level person where it's they don't even know how to think. That's the reoccurring theme on this morning show is how the fuck do we even think? Why are people not experiencing the synchronicity that I do? Is it because they don't know how to think? I think that it is. It really is a matter of right thought, right action. It was one of the first things I read in a book about Buddhism. And that's not a Buddhist idea. It's just right thought, right action. You don't have any sort of ism behind that. Thoughtism? Being a good personism? Right thought, right action, dudes. I'm telling you. don't be judging things like before you really, like when somebody presents you with, okay, that person's a flat earther, like you better be treating that situation like like the entirety of the universe is listening to you thinking about it. Because the entirety of the universe is going to judge you. The fucking second you try to judge somebody else. Or anything. I don't think any of you, maybe some of you do, respectively. I'll correct that thought. You see what I'm saying there? I just showed you an example. I don't think that any of you, well, that's not quite true. It's just not gonna be true. Because some out there are, but you can at least see where I got to have that thought, right? You can see where it came out of my mouth. Now, was it right thought? It was on track, but I did have to refine it. You understand? So you can't ever come to this place and think that I'm like speaking from this end-all be-all position, because I'm always refining my thoughts. I'm always doing this. I'm trying to tell you and share with you how to do this, so you can experience this fucking conversation, this life with the universe, where it's like this synchronicity will pop off in your life, and it's like you feel like you're like God is answering your every thought. Like it's like he's right there. He's right there. That's such an indoctrinated fucking speech impediment there, like referring to God. That's why I don't use the word. I don't refer to it as God. I use the universe. The fuck is God? I don't even know what that word means. I don't even know if I can comprehend such a fucking thing with the tools I'm given here, right? Like, how do I know? I'm just going to try to figure out what I can with the tools that I have to the best of your ability. And like I've said, the truth is seemingly always in part a mystery. So the minute you think that anybody thinks they've got something all figured out, it's like, no, dude, that's wrong thought. You don't have it all figured out, because that's probably not even possible. Passing another truck there with some interesting information on it. I'm not going to say it all for you, but I can relate and process the information to everything. It was just an interesting thing to wake up to. It's like, so I hop in this chat room and I'm like, hey man, you just don't be hating on the flat earthers because of what you don't understand. Because really, I said, you know, they made a mistake of leaving one belief system and entering another. And I'm telling you, that's why the belief mentality is incorrect. It's wrong thought. It's not right thought. Belief mentality, wrong. Wrong. It's fucking wrong. So why do it? It was something so simple that I figured out when I went to this Buddhist monastery / university in the Arizona desert. Diamond Mountain University. It's called it's something else now. Go read the fucking book if you want to know about my story. But when I went down there, it was like I figured this out. It was like, oh, just change your way of thinking a little bit to be more respectful of the truth. Set aside, unattached from all of what you want and all of your passions. Let them all go. I gave up everything to go down there. Everything I had besides like the physical vehicle that I needed to get down there, which I had purchased for like $600 like before, you know? Like the situation I was in was like, okay, give up all your material possessions except for these just very, very basics and go down and see what we can fucking figure out. I was like, yo, universe, what the fuck is going on here? I'm in this position in life that this fucking sucks and I ain't that kind of person. Like, I didn't do anything wrong here. What the fuck? The universe was like, yeah, I hear you. Now check this out. And I was like, oh, so you're listening. Oh, you're also teaching. All right. And there you go. It's that simple. So when I'm presented with something like, hey, the earth is flat, man, when I first heard it, I was like, what? But I was with my ex-girlfriend at that time, and she was kind of unhealthy for my mentality. Because I kind of, you know, that's a subject in itself. But some relationships can be unhealthy for men's mentality. And it wasn't that it was so unhealthy. It was just that she wasn't one who I could really, Jesus fucking Christ. There's a situation here. Just entering the on-ramp. She wasn't one that I could really get down to the nitty-gritty with the truth. She wasn't a seeker. She was, but she wasn't. She just had her limits. I don't want to get into all that, but it's kind of relevant at the moment. So when I was first presented with it, I kind of passed over it. But the reason I passed over it was because I didn't treat the person like total shit, I heard them out, but what they presented was that graph where the Earth is flying through space, or the sun is flying through space and everything's vortexing around it. I was like, that's not even what they say is going on. I was taught that the sun was not moving. That's what I remember from growing up. Sun's not moving, it's just sitting there, and we're all orbiting around it. Okay, that seemed to make sense, because then gravity made a little bit of sense. I was like, I can sort of imagine that occurring at this place in time, Didn't have enough evidence, but that's what they were telling us. And then it occurred to me that, they are telling us that the sun is flying like a fucking rocket ship, just straight through, not curving, not orbiting anything, just flying straight through, unaffected by any other gravity. Is what? Now you are fucking feeding me full of fucking bullshit. All the planets just, something pushes and pulls them along with the sun, at a 90-degree angle, right? While they all fly around it. So there's nothing, I'm like, dude, gravity would make it so that we're all trailing after the sun, and we would eventually either go into it, or we would trail off and fall away from it. That's what would happen. If what they're fucking, if you put what they're telling us, the forces and shit, in a program, a software like AutoCAD, an engineering software, that's what you would get. All the planets would just start falling behind the sun, and they would stop circling and everything. They would just start trailing it, because that's what they would pull it along, or it would suck it into it, one or the other. So it's you got all these people, this fucking Twitch streamer, she's got this master's degree in psychology, and she doesn't even know how to think. No one taught her how to think, but yet she's out there trying to say these people and those people have these certain kind of traits and behaviorisms, and it's you read all that shit out of a book and got tested over it, but nobody ever taught you how to think about those things. They never taught you. They taught you wrong thought. You didn't learn right thought. I had a leg up when I went into my education, because I already learned right thought. I already went down to the monastery and figured life out in that manner. I wasn't lost walking through fucking college the second time. The first time, I wrote about that in the book too. The first time was a little bit of a shit show. But that wasn't even on me. I'm there passing advanced chemistry classes that I shouldn't even have been allowed into, because I didn't even have prerequisite classes for it. Never taken a chemistry class in my life. Never studied the periodic table at all. And they're just here, go into this chemistry class where you should have had at least 2 years worth in high school, and AP classes. And I'm so I'm just supposed to fit in here, and all of a sudden just know all this chemistry shit, right? They're like, yeah, just pay for the class, it's all good. So I went in, I learned it real quick. You have to balance the equations of the atoms when they're there's this chemical process and shit. I honestly thought it was pretty interesting. I was like, chemistry is kind of fucking cool. At least the math part of it had purpose. Normally when I was doing math in high school, it was just this shit is so retarded. What am I even doing this for? Calculus, algebra, trigonometry, blah. What the fuck is the purpose? at least when I was in chemistry class, it was like, well, you're figuring out like atomic weight and like what are you left with after, the chemical structure wise. It was like, at least there's something happening there that I can fucking figure out and like sort of see a process. This math shit's just total like, yeah, anyway. I just wanted to dig into some right thought, right action. I want to keep fucking talking about this because it's one of the it's like the perfect litmus test, whatever that word is. It's a perfect IQ test for people. Like, hey, Earth is flat. Oh my God! You'll break their brain. Tell them socialism's better than capitalism. Watch that fucking break some people's brain too. Yeah, better yet, tell them communism better. Tell them that I wish China would just fucking take over the U.S. already and watch their brains fucking break. They don't know how to react. It's like, you know that person doesn't know how to like properly process information in a fashion that the entirety of the universe, every fucking intelligence in the universe, like, imagine there's a heaven with angels and shit. Something like that. Just for a soft example. They're always listening, dude. I'm telling you. It's all connected to your thoughts. And it ain't just like one big God that's like one thing listening. It's like there's a lot of shit that can listen to consciousness. It's like, it's just energy being dispersed. You don't think that others out there can like just tune right into it? Of course they can. That's why I'm saying, like, you can orchestrate your thoughts. Like, when you're dealt with a situation where it's like, oh, you think a communist is the worst person in the world. Like, you think that they are the exact opposite of what you are. And that they want you dead or something. Whatever the fuck your stupid beliefs are. You're not treating that person with the note. And I say note in a manner of orchestrated thoughts. In like a symphony, a sound, a musical. Like, your thoughts should be like fucking an orchestra. You know? Orchestrating. And that note of respect in there lets everyone know in the universe that, hey, I'm playing that note because here, listen to it, it's there. I know it. It's like knowing something. It's like acknowledging something. That's your thoughts, orchestrating your thoughts. How many can you put together at once to be a symphony? How many can you put together at once to be a drumline type of thing? Can you organize whole trees and forests of information and databases? Like, what can you organize? You know, do you have different songs? Like, I think people just they don't know how to think. Like, thought is a total fucking mystery for them. It just happens. And they don't know why. It's such a sad thing. I've read some books that have actually like kind of broken down like layers of consciousness and levels of it. And honestly, those are pretty helpful to just give you a little perspective on the whole perception of your thoughts. Like, what are they even? Well, other people have asked that question. They've written books about it. They've done some research too. And honestly, if I had to throw a name out there, Robert Anton Wilson is one of the better authors that writes about those things. His books on the subject and the way he wrote about them, they were just more interesting to me. I thought that they were on a higher intelligence level than the other books that were out there. So when I say his name, I'm not necessarily saying he's the end-all be-all or the only one to go check out. I'm just saying those were the better ones that I read. That I was like, actually, like, this book is challenging enough. Not just like fucking boring and like, you know, we all have our own intelligence level, and that was the right one for me at the time. Yeah, and that kind of gets back into like the spirit animal dream where it was like I had that massive crow was at my feet while I was having this wisdomic type of conversation with this person that I didn't know in the dream. all these things like tie nicely together, and they make sense. They fit. That's why it's like that right thought. These things will synchronize and come together for you. You start orchestrating your thought. Like, one of the biggest things that I experienced was like this song in my head. It was like when I was really like, okay, like just like my ear opened up, because I was like, oh, like my mind just opened to the like, oh man, it's like this whole like going on your knees and praying like at night shit, and then hoping for your fucking prayers to be answered. That's such bullshit. Like, all I have to do is think. I can think a thought right now and God's listening. Like, and I can get something back within like either right now or maybe like 1 to 3 days type of thing was what I ended up. You know, sometimes it's 1 to 3 years type of shit, but it just, that was the point where my mind just like, oh, like the universe knocked on the door and I was there to let them in. Or maybe even vice versa, like I knocked on their door too. Like, just kind of broke down the wall in my mind on that. And it was like, oh, there is like a two-way radio. Just we're like tuned in with God and the collective at all times. Like, it's never separate. Like, your thoughts are never private. So I'm gonna get out of here. I don't want these things to be too long again. But again, I'm so fucking sick and tired of people judging others, all this division, like, what, flat Earth? It's like, come on, the shape of the fucking Earth thing? Like, that's actually how they're hiding so much from you. Like, if you can't put that into your perspective that, hey, they might be lying about this, like, we might need to consider all information of what's going on here to have the best arsenal to deal with the upcoming challenges in the information war. Like, it's so much bigger than people think. And the shape of the Earth thing is perfect. It's a perfect example and subject to really fucking start cracking some eggs, dude. Like, we're gonna find out which fucking eggs are the tough ones and which ones are gonna crack under pressure. So, there it is, man. There's your IQ pressure, egg pressure test. Eggshell bread. Like, how hard is this motherfucker? I'll test you real quick. What's the shape of the Earth, bitch? It flashes me back to when I was sitting there with Savvy the first time I talked to him, Savvy Moose. Sitting there smoking a cigarette, and he asked me like 3 questions, you know? Like, are you religious? Do you believe in aliens? And then one other thing. That's like what it is. That's what I would do. Are you religious? What's the shape of the Earth? Probably ask him one other question too. And it's like, dude, I can profile your entire fucking life based on those questions. And I should not be able to do that. But again, interesting here is the spiritual master Geshe Michael Roach. I mean, that guy knew some shit. He was very well trained. Like, say what you want about him and the little, you know, the shit that happened there and what is the kind of the nefarious side of that shit. He had a lesson that I sat in on one time. He was giving a little lecture, and I actually related to it. I thought it was a really good thought exercise. He was giving this example. He was like, you walk into the gas station, and you're dealing with the lady at the counter, right? She's a young lady. And he's like, in your thoughts, in your mind, on this note, right? This orchestrated note. He's like, you can see her getting older. You can see her as an old lady. It's like you can see that aging process. So it's like you're respecting her elderness while she's young. You know, it's like that type of note that I'm talking about. Right thought. Like, add that to your perspective. I thought it was a beautiful lecture. It was a beautiful thought. It's totally applicable. It feels full of compassion. At least that's how I feel about So, all right. Have the day you deserve, and I'll catch you in the next one.